You ever watch someone smile at you while slowly tightening the knife they've already buried in your back? That was Erica. And I didn't realize it until I'd already bled for her for 4 years. I'm Caleb. I'm 34. Or I was, the day she said I betrayed her. My official title was Senior Operations Analyst at Stratus Core Solutions, which sounds impressive until you realize I was doing the work of 3 people for the salary of 1. I was the guy they leaned on when everything went sideways. The one who stayed late, who came in early, who trained the new hires because you just explain things so clearly. You know, the dependable one, the fool. The break room was empty that night, just me and the hum of the vending machine. It was almost 9 p.m., and the janitor gave me a look when he passed. Half pity, half surprise that I was still there. I stared into my cold coffee and thought about the first time I asked Erica for a raise. 2 years ago, right after I closed the Mitchell account. I remember the way she smiled across her glass desk, all teeth and compliments. You're doing incredible work, Caleb. Really. But let's wait until next quarter. We're still recovering from Q3. That was the line. Next quarter. It became a running joke in my head. I heard it every time I walked past her office. Next quarter was always just out of reach, like a mirage you crawl toward in the desert, only to choke on sand. And still, I kept crawling. I stayed through the hiring freeze, through the mass layoffs when they gutted our support team. I picked up the slack without complaint. When we nearly lost our biggest client, due to a systems crash, I worked 2 back-to-back 16-hour days. Erica called me a rock star in front of the execs, sent me a Starbucks gift card after, $20. That same night, I got home and sat on the edge of my mattress. I don't call it a bed, because I never bothered buying a frame. Just a mattress on the floor of a 1-bedroom rental with a leaky faucet and paper-thin walls. I opened my banking app. $46.21 in checking. Rent was due in 6 days. And that was when it hit me. I wasn't the dependable one. I was the one who made it easy for everyone else to coast. I was their buffer, their safety net, their invisible man. The next morning, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. Erica was in her office with 2 of the newer hires, Justin and Kelly. Fresh out of college, fresh with ideas they thought they invented. Erica laughed, loud and fake. I'm putting both of you up for performance bonuses. We need to reward innovation, right? That word, innovation. I had redesigned the internal escalation flow last year, cut turnaround time by 38%. No bonus, not even a lunch. I didn't say anything. I just walked back to my desk and opened a private tab. Found a job listing that looked promising. Sent in my resume with no expectations. 2 days later, I got a call back. 3 days after that, an interview. Then, a formal offer. 35% more pay, better benefits, and stock options. I didn't accept it right away. I sat on it for 2 nights. Thought about loyalty. Thought about Erica. Thought about the team I helped train, the systems I kept running, the fires I put out. I thought maybe, just maybe, I owed her a conversation. So I knocked on her door Friday morning. She barely looked up from her screen. Got a sec? Quick one. I'm about to jump on a call. I told her I'd received another offer, that I wasn't sure yet, but I wanted to be transparent. I said it calmly, professionally. I said it out of respect. That's when she looked at me, really looked. Her eyes narrowed. She put down her pen like it was a weapon she'd just remembered she had. You just stabbed me in the back. For a second, I thought she was joking. Then I realized she wasn't smiling. Her face had gone cold, not angry, wounded. I gave you every opportunity, she said. I vouched for you. And this is how you thank me? I didn't argue, didn't remind her how many times she'd said, Next quarter. Didn't bring up the nights I stayed, the weekends I worked, the holidays I skipped. I just nodded. I'm not accepting it yet. I just wanted you to know where I stand. Well, now I do, she said, and looked back at her laptop. I walked out of her office with a strange feeling in my chest. Not fear, not guilt, something heavier but cleaner, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for 4 years. I didn't say another word to her that day, but I knew. I'd made the right move, even if it burned every bridge behind me. I didn't expect fireworks. I didn't expect a party. But I also didn't expect to be treated like a criminal. The morning after I told Erica about the offer, things were quiet. Tense, but quiet. I went about my work like I always did, answered emails, cleaned up the backlog Justin had left half-finished, and even took a call from a client who was asking for last-minute edits to a contract. Normal stuff. At noon, I got called to HR. I figured maybe Erica wanted to talk again. Maybe she'd cooled down and realized that what I'd done wasn't betrayal. It was transparency. So I walked in calm, still wearing my badge, still logged into my computer, still thinking maybe this was going to end like adults. It didn't. When I stepped into the HR office, both reps were there, Elise and Marcus. That was my first red flag. They were sitting side by side like they'd been rehearsing something. Caleb, Elise said, her voice clipped. Please have a seat. Marcus cleared his throat. We've been informed by management that you've initiated discussions to leave the company, and that you disclosed this yesterday to Erica. Yeah, I said. I told her I had an offer, and I wanted to give notice the right way. I haven't accepted anything yet. Elise gave a tight nod. Unfortunately, the decision has been made to terminate your access to internal systems effective immediately. You'll be allowed 30 minutes to collect your belongings under supervision. I blinked. I'm sorry. What? Elisa cited you as a potential security risk, Marcus said, not making eye contact. My mouth went dry. A security risk? Because I was honest? They didn't answer. Didn't need to. They handed me a form to sign, confirming I understood I was being released effective immediately, not for cause, with standard severance. We'll escort you to your desk, Elise added gently, like that would make it better. I laughed, not bitter, just stunned. You know I built the escalation system you still use, right? If I wanted to screw this company, I had 4 years to do it. Caleb, Marcus said, finally meeting my eyes. I know. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about logic. It was about ego. Erica wasn't protecting the company. She was punishing me for making her feel powerless. I followed them down the hall. My badge buzzed red at the elevator, already deactivated. When I reached my desk, people looked up, and then looked away. Amanda, the project manager, stood halfway from her chair like she might say something, then sat back down. Jordan, the IT guy I'd had lunch with every Thursday for 3 years, gave me a nod but didn't speak. A few whispered, "Sorry, man," or "That's messed up." But no one made eye contact. No one stood up. And I get it. They saw what happened when someone asked for more. I packed my things slowly, not because I was stalling, but because I wanted to remember the feeling. Not anger, not sadness, freedom. Like walking out of a room you didn't realize was locked until someone tossed you the key. 30 minutes later, I was escorted to the elevator by a junior HR rep who looked like she wanted to disappear. I carried a cardboard box with a keyboard wristpad, a cracked mug, and the sticky note Amanda had written me months ago that said, "You're the glue." As we passed Erica's office, I turned my head. She was at her desk, typing furiously, her shoulders hunched, her mouth a tight line. She didn't glance up, didn't acknowledge me, like I'd never existed. It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It just felt small. She felt small. Outside, I stood on the curb for a second, holding the box like it was heavier than it was. Cars passed. People talked on phones. Life went on. I set the box down, pulled out my phone, and opened the email from the recruiter. The subject line was still there. Offer letter. Final revision approved. I tapped reply and typed, "Let's do it. Happy to accept." That night, I unpacked my box at home and put the sticky note on my fridge. I didn't open my laptop. I didn't job search. I didn't wallow. I ordered takeout, sat on the floor next to my mattress, and watched a documentary about whales. Something about their silence calmed me. Because that's what this felt like now. Not defeat, not even revenge, just quiet. A shift, like my story had stopped being about proving myself to her, and finally started being about me. 5 days passed. I was halfway through onboarding training at the new company when my phone buzzed. It was Jordan. Just one line. "Dude, you're not gonna believe this. There's a strange kind of peace that comes with being valued. Not praised, not placated, but truly listened to." That's how my first week at Ember Point felt. The difference was immediate. On my second day, I was sitting in a morning strategy meeting when Rachel, my new director, paused mid-sentence and turned to me. "Caleb, what's your take?" Not performative, not polite. She genuinely wanted to hear it, so I gave it to her, straight, analytical, concise. She smiled, nodded, then adjusted the entire rollout timeline around my suggestion. By Friday, I'd been handed full ownership of one of their highest priority client accounts. No red tape, no posturing, just trust. My onboarding buddy, a UX guy named Anton, clapped me on the back as we exited the meeting room. "Either you're magic or you've clearly seen things, man." I smiled. Little of both. It was surreal. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to pull me aside and ask me to hang back after a meeting. But it didn't happen. The culture here wasn't performative. People spoke directly, made decisions fast, and didn't hoard credit like it was rations in a war zone. On Monday morning, I got a message from Jordan. "Coffee this week." Got updates. Big ones. We met at a small cafe 3 blocks from my new office. He looked the same. Rumpled hoodie, faint coffee stain on his collar. Always 5 minutes late. But his eyes were sharp. Wired, even. "You look better," he said, sliding into the booth. "Like someone peeled the burnout off you." I laughed. "I sleep now. It's a novelty." He leaned in. "Okay, buckle up." What he laid out sounded like fiction. 3 days after I left Stratuscore, the Mitchell account, our biggest legacy client, hit a compliance snag. Something about vendor overpayments and flagged expenses. Erica had taken control of the account herself after I was booted, thinking she could spin plates like I had. Spoiler, she couldn't. She ignored an alert I'd flagged in my final budget report. A vendor discrepancy, small on the surface, but part of a larger trend I'd started documenting. My notes were detailed, filed, time-stamped. "She tried to bury it," Jordan said, sipping his coffee. "Then blamed you in the Monday morning exec call. Said you'd left things in disarray, that you failed to notify the team about certain vulnerabilities." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "She even printed your name on a follow-up summary and submitted it to legal." I waited. I knew where this was going. "But IT still had access to the report logs," he continued. "Your file was clean, time-stamped, labeled, forwarded to her. Twice." Of course it was. I'd covered my bases. I always did. "She forgot digital paper doesn't burn," I said quietly. Jordan grinned. "Exactly. Legal escalated it to HR. HR brought in risk. Now there's an internal investigation. And guess what? You're off the hook, in writing. A strange warmth bloomed in my chest. Not satisfaction, not pride, relief. Because for a second, back in that HR office, when they revoked my access and stared at me like I might torch the building, I questioned myself, wondered if I'd missed something, left something undone. But no, I hadn't. "You're telling me," I said slowly, "that she tried to pin a compliance risk on me, and the company found the receipts." Jordan nodded. Word is, Elise from HR was furious. Said Erica put the company at legal risk by mishandling the transition and misrepresenting your documentation. I leaned back, watching a pigeon hop across the sidewalk outside. The sun caught in its feathers, making it shimmer for a moment before it darted away. She always thought documentation was just bureaucracy, I murmured, but the details are where the bodies are buried. Jordan nodded, eyes wide. She's not just in trouble. I heard the board is meeting this week. Someone called it a probationary review. I looked at him, brow raised. For Erica? Yep. Whole leadership trust thing. They don't like liability, especially not ones with executive titles. I stirred my coffee. The bitter smell felt sharper now, like it belonged to a different version of me. One who'd begged for scraps, pulled double shifts, and smiled through condescension. Now I was free, and I had proof. The rest of the day passed in a strange haze. Back at the office, Rachel asked if I'd consider leading a new cross-functional task force. "You've got a steady hand," she said, "and a brain that can see around corners." I said yes. At my desk, Anton rolled over in his chair and handed me a protein bar. "Fuel up, Director Caleb. I'm manifesting your promotion early." I laughed, pocketing it. Appreciate the vote of confidence. But the truth was, I didn't need validation anymore. Not like I used to. The truth had its own gravity now, and it was all on my side. The ballroom smelled like cheap champagne and networking desperation. One of those industry mixers where everyone wears name tags and pretends not to scan for titles. I didn't plan to stay long, just long enough to be polite, shake a few hands, and grab one of those tiny bacon-wrapped things from a passing tray. I hadn't expected to see anyone from Stratuscore. That part of my life felt like a different planet now. But halfway through my second drink, I felt a hand clap my shoulder. "Caleb." I turned. It was Vince, one of the VPs from back in the day. Mid-50s, always wore pocket squares and called everyone boss. He smiled like we were old war buddies. "Heard you were the brains behind that retention strategy last year," he said. "Shame how that ended." I raised an eyebrow. "Shame?" He glanced around, lowered his voice. "Let's just say there's a lot of cleanup happening. Erica's out. Or, on leave, officially." I kept my face neutral, but something flickered in my chest. "That internal app still launching?" He chuckled darkly. "Suspended, quietly. The board didn't like the numbers, or the fallout. Word is, she burned too many bridges, including you, apparently." I shrugged. "That's old news." He nodded, then leaned in. "Just between us, you dodged a bullet." He moved on, but the comment hung in the air. I sipped my drink and drifted through the crowd, letting the noise fade into a kind of background hum. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. But hearing it said aloud, from someone inside, made it real. Erica had finally run out of places to hide. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. LinkedIn. Erica Lang has updated her profile. I clicked. Her job title was gone. No mention of Stratuscore. Just a vague consultant, advisor, just speaker headline that read like digital exile. I blinked. Another alert. Erica Lang has deleted her account. Gone. I stood there, surrounded by laughter and clinking glasses, staring at a screen that now held nothing but blank space where her carefully curated authority used to live. Someone bumped into me. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and walked toward the balcony. The air outside was cool, crisp, and honest, in a way the room behind me never could be. As I leaned on the railing, looking out at the street below, my phone buzzed again. This time it was messages, 3, then 5, then 7. Old co-workers. Hey man, didn't get the chance to say it earlier. Sorry. What they did to you was wrong. If anything opens up at your new place, would love to connect. You always carried that team. We should have said something. Some were just apologies. Some were fishing for referrals. I didn't mind either way. I wasn't keeping score. I had no axes left to grind. The truth had done all the work for me. I watched a couple hurry past below, arm in arm, laughing about something I'd never hear. A cyclist wove through the traffic light without looking. Somewhere, someone yelled, "Taxi!" into the night like we were still living in the 90s. I thought about all the years I'd spent believing loyalty was linear, that if you poured everything into the company would protect you. I'd believed in merit, in patience, in staying quiet and letting the results speak. But results don't speak unless someone's willing to listen. And some people, like Erica, were never listening. Turns out, being loyal to yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. I stayed outside a while longer, letting the city move without me. When I finally went home, I felt lighter, like I'd shrugged off an old skin I didn't realize I was still carrying. Inside, I kicked off my shoes, made tea, and opened my laptop out of habit. One new email blinked in my inbox. Subject line: Opportunity to discuss strategic leadership role. The message was brief. Hi, Caleb. We've heard about the impact you've made, both at Stratus and now at Emberpoint. Would you be open to a conversation about something bigger? No fireworks, no fanfare, just a door, slightly open. And this time, I wouldn't wait for permission to walk through it. It was nearly 9 p.m. when I finally leaned back in my chair and looked around the office. The lights were low, sensor-timed, most of them already dimmed for the night. Just a soft glow from my screen and the hum of the city pressing against the glass. I hadn't meant to stay this late, but truth be told, I didn't mind it. 6 months ago, I was boxed up and walked out like a liability. Now, my nameplate read, Director of Strategy. I didn't ask for the title. Rachel offered it the week after I landed the Monarch account, the one every firm in our sector had been chasing for a year. She said she'd never seen a client sign that fast. I said I just listened. People forget how rare that is in business. Leadership had offered to make it a big deal. Press release, internal announcement, maybe even a newsletter feature. I told them no. Let the work speak. I was done with spotlights. All I wanted was a door that stayed open and a team that didn't flinch when I entered the room. Maya was one of the new analysts, young, hungry, brilliant. But she reminded me of, well, me. The version of me that still apologized before asking a question, that overprepared and underspoke. So I took her under my wing. Not officially, just in the ways that mattered. I gave her space, encouraged her to present her own work, defended her when a manager tried to talk over her in a meeting. You've got good instincts, I told her once. Now let people see them. She smiled like it was the first time anyone had ever said it, without agenda. That's the kind of leader I decided I'd be. Not the one who hoards praise or sees talent as a threat. The kind who remembers what it feels like to be unseen. I hadn't thought about Erica in weeks, maybe months, not seriously anyway. The story was done, the chapter closed, but tonight, while waiting for a download, I found myself idly browsing one of the leadership forums I used to check back in my Stratuscore days. A thread caught my eye. How to rebuild after losing your team's trust. I clicked without thinking, scanned the first few lines. It wasn't signed, but I knew the voice, the phrasing, the carefully composed vulnerability that tried to sound humble, but still wanted applause. She trusted them too much, the post read, and failed to anticipate how quickly loyalty turns. There it was, still rewriting the story to make herself the wounded one. I didn't finish it, didn't comment, just closed the tab and let the silence settle around me. She was a ghost now, not worth chasing, not worth confronting. Let her type her way to redemption. I'd already earned mine. I shut down my screen, grabbed my coat, and took the elevator down, alone. The lobby was quiet, a janitor nodding at me as he buffed the floor. I stepped out into the cool night. The city was alive, but softened, muted in the way only late evenings can be. I didn't take the train, didn't call a car, just walked. Halfway home, I passed the old Stratuscore building. Empty now. The sign was gone, just a shadow where the letters used to be. They'd relocated after the restructuring. Some said it was branding, others whispered it was damage control. I stood across the street for a minute, hands in my pockets, watching the dark windows. It used to feel like a fortress. Now it just looked hollow. The kind of place that made promises and swallowed people whole. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger requires energy, and I'd already given them enough. What I felt now was quiet. Not victory, not revenge, peace. Funny. I used to think I needed Erica's approval, her recognition, that some version of success meant finally hearing her say, "You were right. You mattered." But the truth is, I didn't need her to see me. I just needed to leave the room she kept dim. I crossed the street, walking past the building without a second glance. I didn't look up, didn't slow down, just kept going. Because some exits don't need applause. They just need a door.